to episode 171 of Bloody Thumbs Podcast. As always, my name is Splinter47. I'm here, as always, with Mr. C.H. Gorog. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing wonderful. That's how I'm doing.
That is wonderful. Mr. Wonderful right here. Mr. C.H. Gorog.
Or as Kevin Bacon would say in X-Men First Class, wunderbar!
In his terrible accent.
I think it was just like, if you want like really good, serious German acting, you got like Christoph Waltz, and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, it's like, Eric, wunderbar, Eric. Just, Kevin Bacon.
Oh, didn't Michael Fassbender have his own little accent too?
Oh, gee, okay, he ran the gambit of every single accent. It wasn't just like, he had like first an English accent, and then he had an American accent, and then it was like a little bit German, and then like towards the end he actually started having his Irish accent peek in, and I felt like the first episode of Archer, where the interrogator keeps going in and out of different voices, like, listen, are you Russian, are you German, pick an accent and stick with it, because he was sounding Rastafarian towards the end, like, you bumbleclot, we must be mutants together, man.
That was crazy.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's strange because, like, can you have good acting and have an inconsistent accent? That's something else I was thinking of. Like, is it still a good?
I would say so for sure, but definitely the bad accent could take you out of it sometimes too. Mm-hmm. If you would consider that, maybe thinking about like True Romance with Gary Oldman's white Rastafarian accent going on.
I ask you if you want some dinner.
which is mainly like the highlight that I always remember from True Romance.
He steals the show. It's like, you think of him as kind of like a drier actor, or explosively angry in Leon the Professional, but in True Romance he just He's just fantastic. It's like the last person you would actually expect to have that role.
Yeah, he's very chameleon-like, Gary Oldman. With all those favorite roles of his that I liked the most was True Romance, and then Leon the Professional, which is like the most craziest of roles I've seen him in, the most creepiest roles too. When it comes to him getting all prepared, whatever pill he's taking, and then just doing that backwards teeth grinding, then cracking his neck.
It's like, did you hear them? Like, talking about the insects, like, dude, like they all skitter. It's like, you could tell you didn't even know what the hell he took to know, like, okay, that's not legally prescribed medication.
But things like that is always good to see, especially him. It's always good to see him do a lot of different roles. He's never really typecasted into much of the similar roles. He's always doing kind of something different.
Those are the actors who always make the biggest impressions. The ones who are not afraid to do something wildly different, even though they might be able to cement themselves better as actors if they do a constant character, an archetype, I think Michael Fassbender's acting career, he constantly does, roles you wouldn't expect. Like he does Magneto in the X-Men movies, where he's great at, and then he does 12 Years a Slave as a crazed slave owner. And then you have him as as a sex maniac in Shame, and just he picks very interesting roles. Except, of course, when he was on Jonah Hex, where he's just like, dude, you don't need to slum. Like at that point, he was on the upswing. It's like, you don't need to slum it anymore. You're doing well.
Oh, that movie was that movie bombed so much. I didn't even know he was in it.
Yeah. Oh my God. So did the rest of America. There was like. I forgot, like, Megan Fox, like, Josh Brolin was in that movie. Like, Josh Brolin, he's still a well-respected actor, even though he's chosen some really weird projects. Like, he did the Old Boy remake, which nobody liked. Where it's like, the people who liked it are just like, yeah, this isn't as good as the original Old Boy, and then you guys don't really do anything different. And he also did Jonah Hex as the eponymous Jonah Hex, and he seems to do.
Yeah,
He seems to be like the new Nicolas Cage, where he does like a really bad film and then he does a really good film.
oh no, not to the level of Nicolas Cage. he has his moments where he'll do some obscure or bad film. I know he was in that other movie too. I saw very small movie in terms of like the actual kind of range that people actually drove out to see it. I saw a while back. I saw that Joaquin Phoenix movie, the Paul Anderson movie, the Inherent Vice, I believe. He was in that. He was like this hard nosed cop with a faded hair, with a buzz cut. I was always on Joaquin Phoenix's ass. It was like an acid PI trip movie, and then Martin Short was in it as a crazy. He was like a crazy drug addict pimp doctor. It was insane.
Oh, that a drug addict pimp doctor. That sounds like a role that would go to Gary Oldman.
It was it was something. That movie was a little out there, but it was certainly an experience watching it for sure. I definitely would give it a look-see one day. That's something. I like it. I like Joaquin Phoenix, so I figured I'd go see it.
I mean, and I think now with Nicolas Cage, it's kind of like you throw a dart at a board, and like in terms of quality, like it'll be either out there, terrible, kind of good, fantastic. Like with Kick-Ass, he was great in that movie, and then he goes back to do like he did like a Bollywood film. And then it just like that man's career is unchartable. He should be in Uncharted 4. It's like the Uncharted 4. Nathan tries to figure out what the hell Nicolas Cage's method is for choosing films, and it's just so bizarre. And I'm referring to Josh Brolin as kind of like Nicolas Cage back in late '90s, early 2000s, where it would be more consistent. It would be like he'd do. Damn it! What's the name of? I'm trying. It's been so long since we've had a good Nicolas Cage film. But he would do. Oh boy! Con Air.
I think that's a real brain teaser there. If they were going to use a question on like on The Price is Right or Jeopardy, that would be a good question. What is the last good Nicolas Cage film?
Absolutely, because it's just like you're gonna really have to dig deep. Like he did.
I got
Lord of War.
Art of War. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then he would do things like Bad Lieutenant, where he was like absolutely crazy.
I love Bad Lieutenant.
And then like Wicker Man, which is like one of the best worst movies of all time, of just like him running around in a bear suit punching at a woman. Just that always brings a smile to my face. And or then like he did like really great films like Raising Arizona, and what is there was damn it,
He's done so much that it's hard to.
All the crap he's done like keeps getting in the way. Just like I can't think of.
I think the last one I thought was decent, more of a guilty pleasure film for me was Drive Angry.
I agree with that one, just and partially because it was like a guy coming back from the dead, and there was like nothing in the trailers to even hint at that. Or it just looked like it was like a regular action car movie, but it's like, no, he's actually back from the dead. Like, you think they would have advertised this a little bit more heavily.
And William Fichtner as the devil? Some kind of devil character?
William Fichtner always gets the benefit of the doubt for me, because he's one of those great actors who keeps popping up in everything.
Yeah, he's always good in any kind of movie that may not be as good as, or deserving of him being in the movie, like The Longest Yard.
hey, we all got to eat, all right? He can't always choose the best ones.
But yeah, he's definitely got quite a selection here.
The Rock, Face Off.
I mean, I'm always left a little bit salty on Ghost Rider too, because that had a lot of potential, and it's
the Crank directors.
It was a terrible, terrible script.
Yeah,
I mean, great, interesting, and unique visual directors.
Matchstick Men.
But yeah, Matchstick Men, and
this is another example of like it's not like he'll choose all bad films or all good films, but a really weird mix of it all. Because like one of the movies he did was Next, which is he like has the ability to see 5 minutes into the future. And so, like, he's helping the FBI track down a terrorist, I think, and it's such a forgettable film, but it's like one of those TBS, I'll have it playing on in the background while making myself some lunch, or one of those type of films. And
it was definitely, it was a made-for-TV movie that somehow ended up in theaters.
Because Nicolas Cage still had some pull. I think it was the same thing of Samuel Jackson with Snakes on a Plane, where he's just like, wait a minute. You're saying this movie's being made? Yeah, it's going to be released as sci-fi. No, it's not. We're going to be releasing it in theaters. It's like, oh, well, Samuel Jackson, the guy who brought the Avengers together, he knows what we're doing, so we got to bring it to theaters.
Yeah, so there's that and a whole slew of obscure movies here.
I mean, if we're talking about his entire filmography, we might want to get a glass of water so we can get from it all.
The anatomy of Nicolas Cage in his bad hair in each movie. Bangkok
Adaptation.
Dangerous.
Yeah, talk about polar opposites. Bangkok Dangerous and Adaptation.
And
where do you think he lies in the spectrum of, like, the 9? Is he chaotic bad? Is he lawful good? Is he true neutral? Like, what do you think? Where do you think he lies in the spectrum of morality?
I mean, honestly, I think he can pull in a good performance depending on the role that he's taking, whether it be for the money or more of a passion project. I think he, as much as most of his filmography is hit and miss most of the time, but I always have a good time. At the end of the day, watching some of his movies, no matter how kind of bad they are. I mean, I'm a sucker for bad direct-to-DVD movies. I always even when I watched them, I always wonder how I always want to know for any kind of direct-to-DVD movie how it ended up being that way, because I mean, there's definitely some good direct-to-DVD movies, and there's also some other ones that are not really good. But what part that always interests me is how it ends up getting to direct to DVD, especially for movies that I've seen before that had an all-star cast. I've seen some movies that are direct to DVD that had 5 pretty noticeable well-known actors, but I was like, how did this get to direct to DVD? And then you see the actual movie, I was like, oh, now I understand.
That's why.
And I see here he was. I see Nicolas Cage was Fu Manchu in Grindhouse, uncredited. The segment of the Werewolf Women of the SS. I see.
I'm actually surprised that wasn't a film that he made, and it was just a joke trailer.
This has changed my opinion on Grindhouse.
Yeah, Grindhouse really is the gift that keeps on giving. Also, we need to talk about something far more important.
Oh, I understand.
Than anything else.
I understand this is a very, very important and sudden thing that you wanted to bring forth under the opening of this wonderful podcast here, CH.
Oh yes. For those of you who don't know, Kevin Bacon is coming back to star in a Tremors TV revival. That is, I am a huge fan of the Tremors series. It's obvious that none of the properties have been as good as the first movie, but
isn't that always the case for these kind of movies?
Yeah, but they kept on getting more and more ridiculous and trying to, and it was essentially Burt Ward's only acting role that he could still get consistent work for. So it's just he's the only character who comes back for every single iteration of the show, even the fourth one where it was a prequel.
Because they know they can get him.
Yeah, they know they can get him, and they can get him cheap. And But damn, just like Kevin Bacon coming back for the TV series. And it's not even like Kevin Bacon slumming. And they did try to do a TV series back in 2003, where they just had a season,
Right.
and it's being headed by Blumhouse Productions of all things.
Yeah, Blumhouse pretty much putting out every horror movie that you see. Is it the same studio, right?
That is the same studio, yeah, and Universal Cable Productions, who Universal Studios, their arm of Universal Studios that does the TV stuff. So it's just like weird because like I love I love the universe because it's just like okay, let's have giant monsters. All right, how'd they get here? Prehistoric dinosaurs. Doesn't make any sense. Shut up. They're giant worms. Let's have some fun. And that's the entire history of Tremors.
Well, honestly, with so much quality TV going on nowadays, whether it be cable TV or Netflix TV, I think it's time for TV to be shaken up a notch and to have a property that's a guilty pleasure come on to the small screen for all people to enjoy. There is such a thing as guilty pleasure TV all around, whether it be reality shows, maybe game shows. I think it's time for an actual legit Tremors TV show to happen. I'm all forward on this, CH.
10,000%.
I'm waiting for like a Sharktopus TV show with Eric Roberts, or maybe
no, Eric Roberts and Christian Bale. Like it's like I would really like to get like really serious actors in, or do like what James Franco did for like a stunt in I think it was All My Children or whatever that soap opera was he was on. Where it's like, let's get really big actors, but then like have them in really small TV productions, and they'll do it for a song.
I'm down.
I really want to see. I want to see Tremors, the TV series, beat Game of Thrones at the was it Oscars?
At the Emmys.
The Emmys, that's the one.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I feel the same way with a couple of shows. I can't even say a couple of shows. I don't even watch TV anymore. I don't even have cable, so I don't know. I feel the same.
Because Netflix keeps you entertained. Because we also got Jessica Jones.
Yeah, we got that, discuss. And we could definitely talk about that. Actually, I actually wrapped that up. I believe what's today? Tuesday.
Today is Tuesday.
When did we finish Jessica Jones? I'm asking. It was Monday, right? Or Sunday.
If it was yesterday, it was Monday.
It may have been yesterday or the day before. We kind of binge watched it over my weekend of not working. So kind of binge watched it. So I definitely got a lot to say about that, about the show. We may have similar. I actually was thinking about it too. I know you had your opinions on it, and I wasn't seeing it. I wasn't seeing it at first until I actually wrapped up the show. I could kind of see where it was going too. See where you're coming from. We'll get into it in more detail.
Yeah,
a little bit here. But yes, Tremors, the TV show.
Oh, dude, it is the resounding return of quality because that's like Kevin Bacon is like the herald of Galactus for me. Just like, you beautiful man, that you just letting you show up with your wonderful face makes me realize good things are coming or terrible things. Either way, I'm gonna watch it.
The franchise that started Kevin Bacon's career.
Oh my god! Okay, you don't know how much my family loves that movie. My cousins, my aunt and my uncle have 4 children. All 4 of them decided to make. Have you ever seen Be Kind Rewind? Or you know the premise where Jack Black and not Don Cheadle,
Most Def,
Most Def, most definitively, they decide to Swede their favorite movies by having them reenact the film. That's what they did with Tremors, and we all watched it and we all applauded because we're just like, you wonderful people, like you really appreciate Tremors as much as the rest of us.
Oh wow, I mean that's dedication right there. I wouldn't be surprised to.
Our family funded the TV, the new TV project.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a family get together of CH's family of cosplaying as the Tremors characters, maybe for a Comic-Con one year.
I'm not gonna lie. I think I may have actually threatened Kevin Bacon with a knife to get him back to playing the character in Drummers.
Well, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, there's a lot of TV shows out there that didn't really get to see the light of day in terms of kind of a resolution to the overall story they had going on. So, I mean, any kind of cult following that we got going on nowadays has been definitely a bit more noticeable nowadays. I mean, we're getting a Twin Peaks revival, so that tells you something on how.
Oh yeah.
A couple of older TV shows and properties there's a lot of people that want to see it come back, and then Twin Peaks being one of them is good to. I'm very excited myself to actually be checking that out very soon whenever it does come out. Whenever it comes out on the Showtime, I believe. So we'll definitely be checking that out. Big fan of David Lynch's work, so this will be no different. His beginning franchise to have him be more popular, have him be more out there is more of his mainstream thing that he's put out for sure. Definitely what got him noticed. I mean, I'm all for that, for those kinds of things happening. It's always, you don't see them a lot, especially with TV, since TV is so. TVs can be very hard to bring back any kind of property or franchise that may have been come up with in the past. I feel like you'll get more of a chance in rebooting or remaking the movie than actually having kind of a revival onto TV. Yeah. So that was a big surprising big news right there.
They did it for Arrested Development. That went back to Netflix with a new season. I to be honest, I have not watched that season again. Like I'll keep rewatching the first 3 seasons of Arrested Development over and over again. I love that show, but not so much the 4th season. But it's still nice to see them coming back. Firefly got a movie before coming to a close. The only really big TV ones I can think about would be Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because that was a really weird one with the revival, because it was like moving from one network to another one, so it technically wasn't canceled, but the petition for the fans to keep the show was the reason why the producers kept the show to the new station. And so anyway, it was that was kind of the first issue of revival TV. And then Family Guy, I think, was the really big one, where after the first 3 seasons it got canceled, then it went on to Cartoon Network for the Adult Swim lineup, and it was just so popular on Adult Swim that they decided to bring it back on Fox, and then it got canceled again, and then it was brought back. It was like, it had a very like a mini cancellation, and then it was brought back. And I was like, wow, you guys love canceling stuff, don't you?
Oh, that's why I never dedicate any kind of TV time on Fox, because Fox was years ago when I watched Fox, and there were some decent shows and premises on there. They canceled it like after a season or 2. I never got invested in any kind of show on Fox because they always let me down. Human Target was a good show that ended too soon for me, and especially with NBC too. NBC with Christian Slater's, it could have been his big revival. My Own Worst Enemy. That was a good show.
Yeah, I heard that was a really, anything with Christian Slater is going to be really well reviewed and loved, and then it's going to be immediately canceled. And Fox, is just, I like the fact that NBC had 3 seasons of Hannibal and 4 seasons of Community, where they actually kind of put their money where their mouth is in terms of fan outcry leading to renewal. Whereas Fox is like, oh, this is a sci-fi show. It costs more than $10. We need to cancel it. Because they had that for Being Human, which I really liked. It had some problems with it, but it was a very imaginative sci-fi universe, and it was only on for a season, and it was canceled before the season could even wrap up because the producers were like, "Well, it's not good enough. Let's cancel this."
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more nowadays. A lot more shows that you probably wouldn't have it see. You probably wouldn't see last season or 2. On any kind of cable show network, you're seeing them a lot more on Netflix or or Hulu or any kind of or an Amazon as well. I think Amazon has their own kind of shows going on, original content there too.
The Man in the High Tower and the Ron Perlman show, where he's a morally defunct preacher. Which, come on, it's Ron Perlman being evil. That's as good as anyone's gonna get.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's just great that there's such risk taking going on in terms of TV that it's not really being done on the cable network shows, because I never really found myself investing too much into them because they never really last longer than they should have. For those examples I mentioned before, I mean, unless there's another cable channel like maybe AMC doesn't really cancel much shows. They actually really do commit a lot to them. I mean, I'm really surprised that Hell on Wheels is still kind of going on AMC. I mean, that show's really good, but I don't know a lot of people that watch it.
No, and they have such it's even stranger because those are very expensive productions.
Yeah, they go all out. It's like a movie with those shows. Every episode, I can imagine them spending at least a few million, and $1 million is a lot for TV.
Yeah, and their new one, Into the Badlands. I mean, I like it because it's a really fun post-apocalyptic martial arts fusion, Old West even, where it's like this very interesting world, but it's not well written. It's not really. It's like candy. It's like, oh, this is sweet and fun, but fortunately, it's not gonna last for two. It's like a miniseries, but man, those martial arts scenes are brutal. Like, there's some R-rated violence in there. I'm really surprised these days of what they can get away with on TV. Like Walking Dead, I can understand. Like, oh, it's zombies, so they're not real people. But this is like bone-crunching, back-breaking, really disturbing fight scenes, and because it's just not disturbing, but very visceral and gory and violent. Good. It's a fun show, but it's obviously expensive, and AMC's like the really only last bastion of kind of television that whether or not you're going to like it or not. You can at least admit, like, yeah, they put some time and effort into this. And I think that the best thing with Netflix and Amazon is the fact that the Nielsen ratings are very outdated, and they don't take into consideration people who watch online, who DVR, and because of that, it's really stacked against them. So having people watch it on Netflix or online and then rate it, and then people can actually track it, then they'll actually know what people want. Like, for instance, Netflix saw that a lot of people watch David Fincher films, and they also watch House of Cards, so they came with David Fincher to say, hey, you want to do a House of Cards remake for America? And then he said, yeah. And so that's one of the best shows out right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it really is good for for us as viewers of these fantastic shows, that we are actually having an impact on kind of what we're getting in terms of content, and even the value that we get for the amount of content that is really offered to us. Like Netflix, I feel like we never really get as much with having a cable TV subscription. Yeah, you spend so much money nowadays on cable TV,
and why?
As a whole, and you only watch like maybe one channel, honestly. It's nice having that variety where you could just pay a very small monthly fee, just like the Netflix, like $8 a month, and you get a lot of bang for your buck, and you don't necessarily feel like it's a burden on you to have it, even when you don't use it for like a month or two. Because it's actually a really good service. So I'm happy to be paying it, even though sometimes I may not use it for like a month. And it's just been crazy like that. I mean, and also same thing with AMC. That's really the only other network channel that I can really consider watching anything on there on a week-to-week basis. I've lost track on Hell on Wheels myself. It is a really good show, but I lost track. I have some episodes downloaded on my computer, but I haven't had the chance to watch them. I mean, it's a quality show, which I like, but I just don't know anyone who watches it, which is a shame. Yeah. It's a really good show, and it's in thinking that and to think that on a show that hosts The Walking Dead and such other great shows that just wrapped up, unfortunately, but they both ended on when they needed to be. I didn't want the shows to drag on and have them deteriorate, and for us to forget why they were good shows. Breaking Bad and Mad Men, the perfect examples of a show that were consistent from beginning to end.
Yeah,
for the most part, and didn't necessarily wear out their welcome.
No, and they ended when they wanted to, and without just being like, oh, people are tired of us, we'll end. And that takes artistic drive a lot of times, in America, where, even like the big shows like Lost, for instance, I think it was like the second and third season were pushed out because the producers of the executives at ABC said, like, you better drag this out because we want this to keep going. And so to have them essentially have like a British TV version sensibilities, there's like, no, we're going to do the thing and then we're going to be done. We're not going to stretch it out. We're going to have as is. We're going to finish it and then we'll just move on.
Yeah, I mean that's really the best way to do it for the sake of the legacy of the show and just and also it creates new opportunities for the creators and writers of those shows to maybe do something new that we'll enjoy later down the line. It's creative wise is really the best thing you could do, and to get the full experience of enjoying that show and remembering why you enjoy it, rather than just having it be like mainly a cash grab than anything else. Which I know it's a business as well, but and have it not feel that way is the best kind of show you can get. That's why I never been interested in watching anything else on the other networks to kind of wrap that up. I just Gotham doesn't interest me, and I've been interested a little bit from the word of mouth to check out Arrow and The Flash. I just haven't bit the bullet on it yet. But since I wrapped up Jessica Jones, I may check out an episode or two.
Arrow for the first 2 seasons, I'd say is really good and fun. The first season of Flash was surprisingly good. I stopped watching Arrow, and I'm not really catching that much up with Flash, especially like after Daredevil. I feel like I've been incredibly spoiled. Yeah. Where it's like that, like I hold that to the same standard as The Wire and Band of Brothers, and just like the best TV that I've ever seen. I hold Daredevil to that high of a standard.
I do too, man. I do too. That's how I felt. That's how I felt when I wrapped up that last episode of Daredevil. It was very very consistent throughout the whole season, and didn't necessarily have to play up even the reveal of the costume, really, because it was more about
the character arc.
It's a character-driven show, and that dealt with a lot of very mature themes, and definitely a lot of impactful scenes as well, especially a lot with the
"Oh, you embarrassed me!
You embarrassed me!"
Oh my god! Like that
that
is in no way any interpretation of Kingpin, but that was still an incredible acting job by Vincent D'Onofrio.
Ooh.
What? And you know what? I feel similarly about. Do you want to get into Jessica Jones?
Absolutely, man. We need to talk about this with you or someone more in depth about the show.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, to wrap it up, definitely a lot of good shows on Netflix. So definitely check that out. Yeah, Daredevil was really good. I'm very, very glad I got to. Very glad I wouldn't say forced myself, but it's really hard for me to watch anything and sit down because I have to put a lot of attention and focus into it. But I'm glad that I sat down and wrapped up the remaining episodes I had of Daredevil, and I'm glad that I did it, and I have no regrets in doing it. I wish I would have finished it sooner. I wish I had binge watched it. I would have been over the moon for that show. But it was still great how everything inspired, and I'm very much looking forward to what they do in season 2. A lot of potential, bringing back the some promising characters as to the effect of the Punisher, and see how it is interpreted with John Barenthal playing him from Shane from The Walking Dead fame, and recent little cameo in Sicario, which is really good too.
Yeah, he was good in that film. He's always he's reminds me of Ray Stevenson where no matter what he's in, it's like you perk up like, oh, he's in this. Pretty cool.
And they both played Punisher.
They both played Punisher. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
And then, oddly enough, Ray Stevenson, I heard, it's probably the best part of that new Transporter Refueled movie. He was actually in it.
Oh jeez, man, that was dust in the wind. I can't remember. Like, did it like last 2 weeks and then just go away?
I don't even think it made the top 10.
Ooh, boy,
it was that bad. It was like a fart in the wind.
Just like an angel's kiss.
Not even an angel. Just a kiss.
Like Satan's kiss.
Yeah, it was that bad. But no, I have very very high hopes for it. I hope the same consistency and thought into the storytelling is kept throughout the next season. I'm very very excited for it. There's just so many things to talk about in that first season of Daredevil, and a lot of great movement, a lot of great moments, especially with some of the
oh my god
flashback scenes with Kingpin's childhood. That moment was god damn. That was good.
That was incredible. The episode with Stick. That was fantastic.
Oh, that was a cool little side thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
You got a little more background on Matt's fighting abilities, because they didn't get into it too much on the show until to that episode, which is cool. I like that.
And dude, I gotta say, the highlight of that entire series is that hallway fight at the end of episode 2.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. That had that long take of Daredevil beating up like 10, 15 Dougs for like 5-10 minutes, and him not stopping, and him being on this like in so much pain.
Yeah, you could see like there's a point where he can't even stand up anymore. You're just like, okay.
It just got to the point where like it just felt so real. It didn't feel like a movie. Like it felt so authentic how everyone was just so exhausted, and even the thugs got exhausted from getting their asses kicked. So they just sometimes some guys didn't even bother getting up.
One of my favorite shots of that entire fight was he breaks into the first room and beats up like 4 guys in there, and you don't see what's going on in the room, and then it just has that establishing shot of the long of the hallway, and one of the guys like goes to investigate because like a door's broken, and one of the thugs had broken it down with his body because Matt threw him against it, and then when he looks in, like he just throws a freaking microwave at his head, just like gong. Like they should have had like the Flintstones, like birds chirping around his head, and the sound effect like wah wah, just as he's just like on the ground, because it just like it comes out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just a fantastic show overall. It's just so much great characters throughout the whole.
Ben Urich, man.
Yeah, Ben Urich was definitely a highlight too of the show too. Just seeing him into the fold, because I know he's a character in the comics, and they definitely took some directions with him that I didn't expect myself, because he's a pretty prominent character in the comics. In some way, because he unveils Daredevil's identity. Spoilers, but that was one of the things.
In the comics, he does that. But it's a different relationship in the comics as opposed to here, where it's almost incidental, but that works a lot better for the story that they're trying to tell. And they do take that character in very different directions than I would have thought they would have taken. And I'm glad they did, because that's just like, wow, that is bold. And especially one of the things I love the changes from was the character of Wesley, who was, in the comics he's just Kingpin's right-hand man, and he's kind of boring, but in the show they really made him an interesting character. Yeah,
it definitely made him more interesting and multifaceted character, with him being kind of the guy that does the dirty work for Kingpin a majority of the time, and does a good amount of there's a lot of things for him, and especially with the
Making deals, killing
the
bad
whole,
guys,
yeah, killing bad guys,
choosing wine.
translating, and seeing how that even unveils itself later on, and that was a nice little nod and reference to that whole part in the show, and
Oh yeah.
and also the guy who played the warden in the Shawshank Redemption was in the show too. He was good too.
Oh yeah. Oh shoot. I gotta find out who
I don't
that
remember.
actor
I don't remember his name, but he was like this very 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 rich, obnoxious guy. But he was he always had his very kind of, what's the word? He had his very interesting moments in the show, and very
Oh, he's got presence.
Presence.
And it was he played Leland Owlsley, who is
yes.
like in the comics, he's literally like a supervillain who models himself after an owl. So they don't go that avenue in the show. It's like, okay, he's an accountant.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I like about the show the most is that they acknowledge characters from the comics, but they don't necessarily hold them by the book as they are represented in the comics. They're more used as a they're more used and written in a convenient way to serve the plot, which I like the most. That they take that into consideration instead of having to heavily rely on what they are in the comics or any kind of exact story thread, beat by beat. A lot of it is just more acknowledging and referencing those characters and using them appropriately to what they're needed for in the script. So I like that. Very excited to see how that goes in season 2. There's a lot of potential, and who knows if they're gonna go through the Frank Miller storyline with Elektra.
Apparently, Elektra's been hired. So
yeah, I heard that Elektra will be in the show. I don't know if they're gonna take the same route. I don't know if they're gonna have Punisher be the bullseye of that story arc. I don't know if they're gonna follow the same beats of the Frank Miller storyline for Daredevil, but it may have some similarities. But hopefully optimistically enough that they have their own kind of take on it and more follow their own path rather than just have it be a bit more predictable than what we already know in the comics. So
yeah,
I look forward to that. So let's go ahead and get into some Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
That released last Thursday, I believe, on Netflix.
Last week on Netflix. It stars Ritter. She was on. I can't remember what her first name was.
Yeah, Kristen Ritter.
Kristen Ritter as the eponymous Jessica Jones, where she is a superpowered individual who runs a private investigative firm.
Yeah, definitely. For reference, primarily you would know her if you've seen Breaking Bad. She was the slight love interest of Jesse Pinkman in one season that had a tragic ending.
Yeah. You can't get more tragic than that.
Pretty tragic ending. That had a full wraparound on that later down the line on the show. So
it had ramifications, definitely.
Yes. So yeah, definitely she's a part of it. And I gotta look at the cast list, but there's definitely some prominent actors that you are familiar with that you may have seen in some capacity. I'm trying to remember where her friend Rachel is from. I know I've seen her before. Was she in The Crazies, or is that someone else?
I think she looks so. I think. Let me start that sentence again.
I've seen her before. I know her face, but I don't know what she's been in.
She was in Transformers. Oh, okay. She was the hacker in Transformers.
There we go.
Yeah. That's
not necessarily the highlight of her movie career, but that's something that I can remember. That
gotta start somewhere.
I spotted her from before. Rachel Taylor, actually.
And Mike Coulter as okay. I gotta say before we go into anything, Mike Coulter is perfect as Luke Cage. He's like, if you got Luke Cage, if you somehow manifested Luke Cage off of the comic books into the show, it still would probably not be as good as Mike Coulter's performance as Luke Cage.
He was definitely one of the best parts of the show. I'll definitely give him credit for that. I'm not familiar with the character of Luke Cage myself. I've been interested in reading the Jessica Jones story arc by Brian Michael Bendis, which is this show's based off of, which is more of the grittier look on the character itself, of her trials and tribulations. Didn't she used to be wasn't she a founding member of the Avengers?
I think she was one of the Avengers, or not
at one point.
Maybe not one of the founding members, because like they rotate them out constantly.
Well, depending on what kind of universe or story arc you're following, at some point she was part of the Avengers.
She was, and then they tried to make her more interesting by having her be grittier and, working from job to job, and they had a much more mature take on the character, where the story arc I think they're running on was Alias, which was the story arc that they were running with, and that was a very, very dark one. Lots of swearing, lots of mature situations, and where a lot of the tone comes from. And they really chose a great Jessica Jones for this role. Kristen Ritter, absolutely phenomenal when the script allows her to be, and that's kind of part of my problem when later. But we'll talk about that. I think most of the actors here very good. Most of the main actors are very good.
Yeah, all of them are rock solid, perfect for the roles they're written for. Carrie Ann Moss from Matrix fame.
Oh, yeah.
She was great in it. Definitely played a different character that I've seen her play before. And David
very
Tennant,
understated. David Tennant was
fantastic.
He's one of the best parts of the show, and even when the script isn't working with him, he's still just fantastic. He is absolutely one of the most interesting antagonists you've ever seen, because he is just so ruthless in an apathetic sort of way, where he's just like, yeah, I don't like you, so I'm ending this conversation with you, probably sticking a pair of scissors in your neck. And for those of you who don't know this, in the show, David Tennant plays a villain called Kilgrave, who has the power of essentially making anyone do what he wants just by talking to them and saying, do this, do that, follow me, attack this person, and no one can withstand him. And that's how Jessica meets him. Kind of a chance encounter, and then he becomes fascinated with her, especially after they separate. I'm not going to say how or why, but you find out why, and then he just starts to get this like serial killer obsession, which fits very well with the genre of crime noir and what Jessica Jones is trying to aim for, rather than kind of the vigilante justice storyline that Daredevil would have, and that fits very well. Except they stop developing his character almost halfway through the series, where he starts to say some very interesting things about there's a couple of themes that are very, very interesting in the show. There's free will, there's self-determination, there's the idea of using violence and how it's utilized, and a lot of those are very interesting, but they're barely touched upon, whereas Daredevil kind of goes into the idea of the ethics of vigilantism, and he's constantly struggling in every episode. He's going to church almost every other fight scene, and just saying, like, I don't know what I'm doing, like, is it right to do this? And they even have a morality questioning moment of, is this even legal? Like, are his powers even legal? Because like he knows when people are lying, so he can press them in court. But isn't that kind of cheating the system? And isn't that doing something that's not lawful? And here it's just kind of touched upon the idea of there's very mature themes of rape, of assault, of slavery almost, and he starts bringing up these interesting ideas in the story, and they're never explored. where I thought that could have been a very interesting way, especially with what Jessica Jones does. She's almost more depraved than he is, because she's so obsessed with getting back at him that she essentially tortures him, and it's this cat and mouse game of them trying to one up each other, and there's never that moment of kind of self-realization of like, what the hell are you doing? And like, am I as worse as he is? Because he, makes people kill. Like she uses like a support group of victims to mine for information, and no one ever questions her about that. And that would have been such. It deals with subject matter that's darker than Daredevil, but far less mature, since it doesn't actually try to address them.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. After wrapping up the entirety of the show, there's definitely some moments in there where I felt like a lot of her determination to get Guildgrave, a lot of it ended up not meaning as much as it should have, especially with the themes and topics you brought up that is mentioned throughout the show. I felt like a lot of those things in her, and practically using other victims of him to kind of get to the point where she's trying to find him and also rescue someone. As it kind of goes on the show, there's ramifications that occur that cause her to make her feel somewhat responsible and guilty of what happened. So she's kind of trying to amend that and save someone from him. But at the same time, it also feels that she's more out there to get revenge than anything else, and it's clouding her judgment that evidently causes more harm than help in the long run, as you'll see in the show.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if a lot of that was just how the character is supposed to be, because there's definitely moments where he doesn't necessarily weren't really rooting for her. She's kind of a very hard character to like, especially when you first meet her. It's a little bit tricky. I don't know if it's just how they handled it in terms of how the character is, or it's just more of the way it was written in the plot. But there was definitely some things that I had gripes with that didn't necessarily gel well with me, and then I would have liked.
Oh yeah, and a lot of the darker subject matter that they dance around, where I feel like they talk about rape, they have abortions, or same-sex couples, interracial couples, but they don't ever address them. They just have them there as kind of set dressing, and then they don't really ever delve into it. Like, I like the fact that Carrie-Anne Moss plays Jerry Hogarth in the show, who is a lesbian, and it's not a huge point of contention, and so I understand it's new for a superhero story, but it's not a new type of story, nor is it that groundbreaking, because we've had, but no, it's actually not, because I just remembered that in the Flash TV show, there's a gay couple there, and in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. there's interracial couples. There's nothing there that breaks new ground, except for the idea of the abortion scene and the fact that the show doesn't really bat an eye at the ramifications of it. And this is kind of disgusting, I feel that. And this is the part that really kind of set me aside, where that subplot is only used as a means to give the bad guy more power. Literally. I don't mean like metaphorically, like he has power over her because he's threatening an abortion. Like, no, he uses the idea of the abortion. I'm not going to explain why, but it's in there as a power source. And I'm like, wow, you guys, way to overstep the sensitivity line. Like, I felt the same way of a similar emotional reaction to when Resident Evil 5 sidestepped the racism controversies of shooting Africans. But like, no, see, they're just regular people. See, there's white people here, there's black people here. It just so happens that virus breaks out in Africa. There's going to be probably some more African people who have darker skin than white people there. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then they have the Ooga Booga tribesman stereotype there. It's like, and just like way to sidestep the bump in the gravel and step on the landmine, guys. I mean, and it just there's absolutely it's kind of despicable how they use that. Okay, so it sounds like it's all bad on that side, but it's that moment really stuck out to me. It's like, okay, you're not actually addressing mature content. You're just using adult content in there and helping people think it's meaningful, and then moving on.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of also things that are set up that necessarily have no reason to be set up, like you mentioned with that subplot as well. Just for the convenience of Kilgrave having leverage against Jessica Jones. I feel like there was a lot of too much convenience going on in the show that, especially probably the last 3 or 4 episodes, I felt like it was.
Well, they just don't give a damn.
I felt like they didn't give a damn about the continuity of it, and also it definitely felt like it was dragging. It felt like it could have ended on like episode 11.
Yeah, episode 11. You are patient. I was thinking of episode 8 because they're trying to drag out the subplot of Kilgrave for so long, and it's weird because like they just could flip back and forth between the morality of killing almost arbitrarily, where it's, well, there's no point anymore, so I might as well. And then
I felt like some things, especially later on the show, that the driving force of the whole reason why Jessica's after Kilgrave is just kind of shut out the window. It's like, well, don't care. and then the motive changes completely, where that motive is now in the complete driving force to the end of the last episode, where that motivation could have been put into use, like on episode 10 to end the show.
Oh god, and it's even weirder because like this is supposed to be a universe that takes place in Law and Order, and even up until the midpoint of the season, they're very focused on, okay, we need the law on our side. We need to prove that he did this. We need to prove that he can do this. But like everything they're doing is illegal. So even if they prove it in court, like there's like a couple of questions that arise. Like, A, how can you use this because you forced him into essentially into like the most illegal ass trap possible? B, how can you prove that he did it? Because like if you prove that he has in the show, it's like, oh, how do you know that this man can manipulate anyone with his powers? So like, what's to say? Okay, how do you know it was him and not somebody else who had the same powers? And because you didn't prove that it was just him, you just proved that the powers exist. And it you know, with Daredevil, as time goes on, it gets more complicated and layered. With this, it just gets simpler and stupid. I don't understand what the hell was going on, and it a lot of times they're just like, you know, the legal stuff is really hard to remember, so let's just like forget all about that.
Right, forget that legal mumbo jumbo. Forget us explaining how this will work in an episode or two and just throwing it out the window. A lot of that for sure.
I do like the cat and mouse stuff between Kilgrave and Jessica because she's
those are good moments.
Because she's the one with really all the physical power and who can easily kill him, and he's the one with kind of intellectual powers and like planning and traps. She's trying to figure out and outmaneuver him, and really trying to, and like that's the stuff I love, because that's classic you know, thriller noir crime stuff where it's like, okay, you have the detective and then you have the big crime boss who are, you know, trying to outmaneuver each other and work to, you know, towards their goal. And then this that's the strongest stuff, but it feels like that's a part of a script that was tossed out the window or modified so much that it just died in the end. Where, you know, one of the subplots I never understood why they were so focused on is the support group subplot, where it just felt like it slowed down the entire series. Just like, okay, I don't care about this. Like, I understand that these people are emotionally, because there's even a support group in the show for victims of Kilgrave's influence, where they can't emotionally deal with the fact that they had no control. But whenever they go back to it, it's just like this plodding, meandering mess that's just like, what's the point of this? There's literally only one usage of that group, and that's for a mob scene. And you just wonder, like, wait a minute, why did they think that? And I'm being very vague because I don't really want to spoil it, but it just, these people, I understand people do emotional things when they're up, people do crazy things when they're emotional, but that just goes into a different, whole new universe of weird. And I can't really, I don't want to spoil it, unfortunately. Like, if we get a chance to talk with maybe the BB guys that go into spoiler cast with it, it definitely feels like they're just, a lot of time with Daredevil, the drama came from developing the characters and the plot. This feels like they wanted the plot and the characters to do something and couldn't write it well enough to justify it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you on that. I mean, the show is, as much as we are kind of talking about some of the negatives of the show, there are definitely some positives.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just it's just that. No, I definitely agree where you're coming from. It's just I feel like it's like right in the middle. Like a lot of there's a lot good, there's a lot not so good that could have been definitely adjusted.
Speaking of,
definitely trimmed down too.
Speaking of right in the middle, Will Travel as Officer Simpson. That was a really weird choice that they had with him being like him going crazy. Because like in the beginning of the show, he's an officer who gets involved with the storyline, and he actually brings up interesting points. And then they want him to go nuts towards the end, just like lose his mind completely. And it's never really built up satisfactorily.
No, I wasn't a fan of his development on that front. Like he definitely had some good. He definitely has some good opposite debate points in terms of how they should handle Kilgrave, but it felt like they another alternative or solution to what they're kind of going through could have been easily debatable and debated in more nuanced, more nuanced, or kind of I wouldn't say neutral, but more of a, I guess, a less
extreme point of view.
It could have been a more extreme point of view than they necessarily took the character. It felt like they had to make it more extreme because that ideally is not the way to go, but it can be an option. But they felt like because it is a more extreme option, they had to make the character extreme too.
And I didn't know if it was like an intentional choice, but he turns to something in the show which causes him to go crazier or start losing his mind. And the more he started doing that, the worse the acting got from him. Whereas I don't know if like that's an intentional choice of being like less human and more wooden and robotic, or if it's just because like because like in the first couple episodes, like, oh yeah, I like this guy, he seems pretty good, and then later it's just like what are these choices? It's one of those things where, much like the support group, it kind of loses focus, and you're not really sure what the point of it was. And but I do have.
No, I mean I definitely agree, especially with a character like the character that he played. It felt like he was going to be kind of a one-off written character, and then he would continue to be a more prominent support character that had some good moments too. It just felt like he was definitely misused, and by the latter half of the season, that it was kind of unnecessary and kind of definitely got in the way of the plot, and it definitely dragged it out a lot more.
They could have written him out.
Yeah, they could have. I mean, they could have just had that horse story arc with him and Trish, and that would have been it. But they had to seem they seemed like they had to put more emphasis and have some kind of convenience to drag out the plot, drag out the show a little bit more. I feel like it could have ended on episode 10 at some point. That's being a little generous.
Oh yeah.
It just dragged on too long. I mean, there's some cool moments. Don't get me wrong. It's just I feel like they try to squeeze out a really solid idea into something longer than it should have been for the idea itself.
It could have been a really great focused miniseries that I felt was like stretched too long to make it like a traditional season. But I gotta say, David Tennant, whenever he's Kilgrave, he's just so much fun as a character because he is just so oblivious to everything, and he always gets his way with everything. So he's this kind of boy king of a man who's just like, who doesn't understand, like he can't get the fact that like people wait around to like talk with other people, or like his socializing skills are terrible when he actually has to get in to talk with other people, with other individuals. And I love the fact that he gets really upset with the fact that he needs to choose his words carefully because he can't actually have a conversation unless he accidentally suggests something, and then people automatically turn. And so he can't really get the truth because he's constantly manipulating people.
Oh yeah, that was another little interesting segment too. Kind of get a little bit more sympathy for him as you unveil more information about him, and kind of his struggles as well, and kind of see kind of where he's coming from at some point. But it also kind of you gotta get more insight on that, but it doesn't necessarily rid him a lot of what he's done. He's not like a sympathetic. He's not really a super sympathetic or endearing kind of villain. Not like Loki, as people like to.
No, not like Loki or Kingpin, or or even someone like spoiler alert for Iron Man 3, Turn Away Now, for Adrian Pierce, who they have interesting philosophies, and it just so happens to run counter. He's a scumbag in the show. He's manipulative. He's petty. He's unnecessarily cruel, and there are scenes where he just doesn't give a damn about people, because like he waits for Jessica to come back, and even and he's got like 2 other people held hostage, and she knows if she doesn't come back in time, he's going to kill them. But while he makes them wait, he says you can't blink until she comes back, and it's just like showing like how unnecessary it is for him to act this way.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that make him just he's
like Joffrey if he was a supervillain.
You know what? That's what I was gonna compare it to. Maybe not as, I wouldn't say as. You don't hate him as much as Joffrey, I think, because the performances are different. They're different enough to I think Joffrey's really more petty than Kilgrave is, but he's close. He's close, but especially the actions that he takes as well definitely doesn't necessarily make him the most sympathetic or great villain, which he's not supposed to be. But I understand that it's good. It's nice that we got some background, a bit more background on him than we'd expect. Than we would have expected. And with most other shows that have villains, they usually keep them pretty hush hush, and usually the actual reveal sometimes for villains aren't always the greatest, and kind of ruin your experience on the villain sometimes. Much like the unnecessary Halloween movies that just that didn't need to be there at all, with the Rob Zombie ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely those moments too where a lot of the pettiness comes through, and his performance is always top notch whenever he's on screen, and especially some of the really interesting moments too. Also talking about some of the support groups for people who are affected, and also the little funny side thing about the guy who was just all broken up because he had to give away his jacket.
People are literally saying like, yeah, the Kilgrave influenced me to where I had to leave my child in the middle of the street, and I was gone for 2 days. You're like, yeah, and I lost my jacket. Like, dude, okay, like, why are you even here?
No, I gave away all my DVD collections.
He made me miss Battlestar Galactica on 8.
Oh, goddamn.
I know.
That's a travesty in and of itself.
Where's the miniseries with that character? I want to see him. Marvel presents Extra Number 3.
Yeah, just there's a good amount of good. There's some other amounts of
Mm.
just a lot of meh,
It
and it just like a lot of it just head scratching on how it was just overlooked. A lot of the it's just small gripes we have that definitely just add up and built up to what could have been a really promising show. And have it be just a good. It's a good, but not anything that I'm gonna watch again. To be
Yeah.
honest, I mean, I am more compelled to watch Daredevil again
Oh
than
yeah.
I am Jessica Jones. Like it was Jessica Jones was an interesting view to watch at the first time going in, but I don't see myself really watching it again. Honestly, like it's a quality show. I mean, it's better than most, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Nothing about it. It's really impacting me in a way that I'm gonna remember or really watch again.
It's not gonna.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's a shame.
Yeah. They good. I like the fact that they delve into really mature content, at least from just a beginning standpoint. This is strangely more violent and more disturbing than Daredevil, especially with the violent content of the last couple of episodes. They embrace sexuality a heck of a lot more in the show. So for those of you who are a little adverse to that, just heads up, because they do everything in the show except show swimsuit areas.
Yeah.
Like they have a joke about superheroes having sex, and so that was a pretty good scene. But
No, it was good, and I like the kind of that Phil Moore detective kind of feel the show has, especially with the music. It has that kind of very
jazzy, smoky,
smoky,
Cole Porter kind of feel,
like Humphrey Bogart kind of
yeah
soundtrack going for it. It feels like a noir detective show that's actually going into some detective and detectiving things like that. Yeah, those things I liked. Some interesting moments. It's really hard to as general and vague as it can be. It's
you can yeah
it's hard to talk about it without giving it away, because there's some really genuinely some good things that happen on the show. As much as we discuss mostly on some of the negatives, it's just they stand out the most, honestly. But there's some good to be had, and it's a different character than what you expect from anything you kind of seeing with the Marvel name attached to it. So
yeah.
Definitely going knowing that this is not your daddy's Marvel kind of movies you're going to take out to see with the family. It's a very very mature,
oh God, no.
very very mature TV show with lots of violence, some sex, some alcoholism, all that good stuff you normally would see like on HBO or FX, especially like on shows like Nip Tuck. I feel like it kind of looks like Nip Tuck in some sense.
Yeah, with the dark lighting and the mood, the cinematography. Because like even when it's daylight, it's still darker than night in real life. Just like, wow, this is some dark lighting. Even David Fincher would be like, damn, that's hard. That's in the darkness then.
Yeah, it almost felt like even more mature, like Law and Order.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, sense. Yeah. And Mike Colder and Kristen Ritter have some great chemistry together. Playing off each other, especially with the story as the storylines progress. If I'm coming down negative on this show, it's that I had such hopes that it would be as well written as Daredevil, not the same in terms of structure, because it's very different types of stories that they're going for. It's just that they're so close to greatness, and they miss it by either doing really confusing things or really bad decisions. And they should have.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no! It's just that they're so close to being as great as Daredevil, but they just do things which are almost counter to the points that they're trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really unfortunate that it's not going to be a series I'm going to return to, or at least this first season. I'm not really going to return to it. I'll probably skip ahead to some favorite scenes of mine, but I'm not going to sit down and watch each episode again, because it's such an investment, and it's not as, I would say, even as rewarding as Daredevil, because the character arcs feel scattered. It feels unfocused at times, and
Yeah.
There's just such great potential that they just skim the surface of, and then only do the surface level analysis and really look at, because they're just so close to being so intellectual, not intellectual boring, but intellectual fascinating, and then they just never go there. And since this is probably the darkest Marvel property of the day, they could have gone to some very controversial, interesting areas, and then they just never really have the guts to do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I necessarily, I had my own. I really didn't have my own expectations for the show going in, but I definitely was along for the ride and is willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. I wasn't seeing everything exactly you're kind of mentioning to me before, and then as the show was continuing, and then by the last kind of 3 episodes is what kind of killed it for me a little bit. It's just I felt like it was there was a lot of choices in the writing that I wasn't too huge on, and just some character moments and things that happen that are just so out of left field of how those characters were.
It's even
how those characters were, and it's just some dumb decisions they make that just drove me nuts. Yeah. A lot of dumb decisions, and in terms of what characters do.
The worst thing I could say about the show is that, well, the best and worst thing is that it is attempting to really go the extra mile, but because they try to do so much in terms of content, it feels scatterbrained and just unfortunately not well developed enough to really do it. It's like they either needed 5 more episodes to spread out the content, or they need 3 less episodes to focus. And it just really just a shame, because there's a lot of good in it. Most of the actors I really liked. I think the characters are, for the most part, well written. I just feel like they needed to know what kind of story they were trying to tell, and it didn't seem like much besides a very general premise of a revenge film.
Yeah, that's what it all kind of boiled down to, especially in the remaining few episodes. It felt like your basic revenge film. It felt like there really wasn't enough to differentiate it from any kind of other revenge film. I've seen better revenge films than what they were going for in terms of the story arc of revenge.
If they had Charles Bronson in this role, Charles Bronson is Jessica Jones.
Charles Bronson. Him and Luke Cage having some interesting love scenes. That would have been something to behold.
Mike Coulter's like, listen, I'm not doing this love scene unless you make it a 6-figure salary. I am not doing this.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me that was kind of the same. I have this kind of the same similar sentiment as you do. I as much as I wanted to really enjoy the show, there's just some choices in characters and in the writing as it progressed in the few remaining episodes that just didn't necessarily make it a show that I would want to rewatch again. It's still a good show to watch first time going in, for sure. I mean, it's definitely different than any other kind of Marvel comic to TV or film adaptation that you're gonna see. So I like the fact that they're taking these more darker and mature toned story arcs and characters from the Marvel universe, because there's definitely a lot of them with the whole Marvel Knights run. There's some darker, mature storylines that are definitely different than the mainstream successful ones you see like with the Avengers and everything. They're more kind of lighthearted, less mature themed ones. I guess some of it
feel good at the end of them.
Yeah, it's definitely different tones, but I like seeing shows more of an edge, with more of an edge to them.
Darker experimentation and
a lot. It feels more like a DC property than anything else. In some sense, I wouldn't if you didn't know anything about this, I would have thought this was something to do with like a DC lineup that was like kind of an obscure character in a sense.
Yeah, from the Vertigo line, like Constantine.
It definitely seems more like a Vertigo character. Mm-hmm. Constantine or the Sandman, something like that.
Oh yeah,
the Sandman TV show would be interesting.
Apparently, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in is producing. He's trying to get that off the ground, and I do like the fact that these smaller projects, which are definitely R-rated if they were movies, are trying to be more experimentative and go down different routes, which I love, because if you want to keep the superhero genre very interesting, you got to go down different genres. And they're doing Luke Cage, which I'm not really sure what genre they're going down. I'm kind of hoping they have Black Dynamite, Blaxploitation. I threw that shit before I walked in the room. A version of him, and then they have Iron Fist, which is going to be kind of straight up martial arts, which will be very interesting to see. I gotta tell you, man, I love the fact they just committed so much to the tone of darkness in this. And while I didn't like the fact that they didn't really explore the darkness too much, I did like the fact that they actually attempted it rather than just even just like keep a distance from it. And that gives me hope, because you don't know how badly I want to see a Moon Knight Netflix series just be psychedelic and weird and like cosmic horror and just that'd be great. But anyway, this is Jessica Jones' show.
As Dave Chappelle, Rick James once said, that the darkness will spread. Darkness is spreading.
Maybe they could get the Murphy brothers to come on in. Charlie Murphy.
Yeah, honestly, I'd be more than up to see other adaptations from the less more enthusiastic or maybe less lighter shows or lighter properties to come to Netflix. I like to see more of the darker characters, just like much like Moon Knight. I can definitely imagine some ways they could do that kind of show. Have it be a more kind of a visual fest kind of show. More action oriented for sure, and more of a visual fest for the eyes, because the comics are more good visual fest too. From like the first 6 issues I read by Garth Ennis. I haven't read the issues after that. I don't know how the comics are after his slight run on the character for those first 6 issues. But it's very interesting. I really hope this spawns some potential DC getting involved in this too, to having some Vertigo characters be adapted.
Oh yeah,
to Netflix. That'd be really good. That'd be really good, actually.
Swamp Thing,
some Sandman, some Swamp Thing. I mean, I've already heard. There's already rumors. I guess they're deciding to go with the Justice League Dark, and casting Ron Perlman as Sandman, or no, as the Swamp Thing.
They don't need much makeup.
I know. I mean, that guy, any kind of role where he has to put on a lot of makeup and prosthetics is always up his alley.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of roles.
Justice League Dark. I like the fact that now we're getting. Not to say that automatically gets points, but it's nice to see a variation of superhero shows or eccentric comic book shows where you have more darker themes, where you have, for instance, Deadpool coming on out, which is definitely going to be an R-rated movie, as they've said. We have Justice League Dark, and even in the title, they have the Daredevil and Jessica Jones shows, which are the hell. I mean, they give Game of Thrones and Hannibal a run for the money in terms of how much violence that they're showing. And it's just very, very interesting to see them experiment with different subject matters.
Oh yeah, I'm very, very, very for that experimentation and variety. I'm all for that. I love those. I love dark, gritty shows. And I also have some meaning and also expand upon certain topics that necessarily doesn't really go too heavy-handed onto pushing a agenda or any kind of idea on you, but they make you think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They give you some. They get your brain working when you watch it, rather than just being a couch potato watching the show. But I'm more than happy to be one. But I actually like to also be also thought provoked on some of the themes they go upon. They're based upon some of the current issues that are going on nowadays. Definitely an interesting. Definitely an interesting show. Has its ups and downs.
It does.
I would definitely. I would definitely still check it out if you have Netflix. I mean, it's worth giving it a shot. I can't say that it's not worth watching, since if you do have a Netflix subscription, it's definitely worth giving it a look. See how you feel about it. I don't know I don't know where they can go from here, honestly. If they do a season 2.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to even think about.
Because it seems like, I mean, but they just finished up, and I guess it was supposed to be more self-contained than maybe Daredevil. So I feel like probably, they'll if they make a second season, they'll find something interesting to do.
Yeah. If not, I'm more than happy. This just being an interesting experiment and kind of a one-off sort of thing, and maybe expand upon other characters in the Marvel Knight series.
Yeah,
maybe a Blade TV, maybe another shot at a Blade TV show.
Oh, that would be good. But since they got the rights back after the rights were lost at Universal and have gone back to Marvel, then they could get it on back and try to make a Netflix series. Who knows? Maybe they could get Wesley Snipes on the cheap and bring him back.
Probably. He's got to make some of that cash back, after evading the IRS.
Maybe that will be the next season of Daredevil, where he has to represent Wesley Snipes in court, and then he's like trying to get his freedom so he can hunt vampires. I feel like you get less time killing somebody than avoiding your taxes. Like that IRS will get you, man. You'll be in the slammer longer than you were if you kill somebody. If they give a damn, they might care if you kill somebody, but they will definitely get on you if you God forbid you don't pay your taxes. But yeah, that was a really good, pretty much good. It was pretty much a kind of a review of us talking about Jessica Jones. I definitely want to take a snippet of this and put it up as a separate video. Yeah, for the website. It's definitely a worthwhile discussion. We had some good discussions on just kind of how the show compares to kind of our expectations, or kind of pretty much how a quality show should be written. So it's up to you guys to decide whether or not you want to invest some time into the show. Yeah, it's good for one through. Oh yeah, feel free to. Yeah, definitely worth checking out a one-time through. Not more than that personally for us. Definitely give it a shot if you haven't seen it already. I know it's been some hype on it, so probably a good amount of you who's listening has probably already seen it. But let us know what you thought about it. Tell us if we're wrong. Tell us if we're right. We're just they'll let us know. We're just letting you guys know how we felt. More than excited to see what other properties come to Netflix from Marvel or DC. And we'll kind of look forward to talking about it as time goes on and it becomes more apparent of this going on. So, other than that, I've not had a chance to play the Game of Thrones Telltale game as I wanted to do before I got on the podcast with you. I know you got to play it. I don't know if you finished it because you sent me a video of your experiences of it, and didn't seem all that too exciting for you, since there were some technical audio issues with the game. And that is going to go up in the review of the game. Like, if I was just taking it from a story and just from a perspective of reviewing the games, that last episode would have been disappointing. But if it was, but I got furious because of those audio issues where literally the sound all cut out except the dialogue during a massive battle scene. So imagine this. Imagine like, at the end of the last season, he had Jon Snow and in the wildling camp as the the White Walkers were attacking. Imagine that all happening with no sound effects, no music, and the only thing you hear is the dialogue, which is just some of the most awkward things because like people are like, "Rawr, I've been shot," and then it just like there's no impact sound of like an arrow, and this is the last time I will buy a Telltale game on previous consoles because just like the audio visual problems have become such a big problem that they should have not even released the game at that point until it was fixed. It's that broken.
Oh man! So you're playing it on the 360?
Yeah, I'm playing it on the 360.
I had no idea. Because I've been playing it personally on the PS4. That's really the way to play it. If there was a way for me to relive my experience with The Wolf Among Us, I would have played it on the PS4 because I know it probably runs a lot better than it did on the 360. Because the frame rate is like crazy insane sometimes in that game, and it definitely affects some key moments, especially in some fight scenes, and also especially even when it starts. It's not a good sign when your game has the terrible frame rate right when it starts. When you hit the start button,
the audio doesn't sync up.
The frame rate drops on the menu.
It's even worse because when it loads the action scene, but it doesn't wait. It doesn't stop and then load the action scene and then start the action scene. What it does, it loads the action scene, starts the action scene, then lets you know that you've started the action scene. So you're like, oh, what's going on? Oh my god, I gotta press Y. And it's terrible. I mean, it's like it's kind of been a problem for Tales from the Borderlands because there were some loading issues there. But I'm like, okay, listen, this is an older engine. It's on previous generations, so I can understand if it loads a little bit. But here, it is debilitating to where you cannot have it function. Okay, so it's strangely, it's got Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us. Those are fine. The games aren't impacted by the loading screens or by weird audio syncing or audio visual problems. But Tales from Borderlands, okay, you see some problems there, but it's not very serious. And then here in Game of Thrones, something with the presentation causes it to load a lot more. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out what in the world is such a huge, debilitating mark on this engine that it's bringing this down so much. I have no idea. And I feel like maybe they rushed out the door because they still had. I'm not surprised that they announced a season 2 to this game because they announced season 2 of Game of Thrones, and it's kind of obvious because this is such a big. It is a cliffhanger. It's not self-contained.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Game of Thrones fans, but it's not self-contained. A lot of it ends on continuation. It's not even now we're done with this story. Now we'll move on to the next story, Wolf Among Us or The Walking Dead or even Tales from the Borderlands. This is just so open-ended that it's done. Yeah, it's just keep that in mind. And sadly,
honestly, that was really one of my reasons that I wasn't really all for enthusiastic to play the game because I felt like it was going to do some kind of BS cliffhanger ending because I wasn't aware that they were even going to do a season 2, so I had assumed they would at least not
wrap it up.
At least not. At least wrap it up. If not, at least have some small open-endedness where it could possibly bleed into another season, much like Wolf Among Us did. It did fine. It did perfectly. It wrapped up everything that primarily was the important part of the entire season, but it also left you in on a small little opening of a potential second season if they choose to do so. I don't see why not, but I'd be more than happy to have enjoyed what I played in that first season and maybe not ever see another one again. But I feel like it got too popular enough to really not have that happen. So anytime soon, I'd be more than happy to see it again. But I felt like I felt like this was not the strongest series they put out. So I didn't think that they were going to do a season 2.
Yeah.
Now that even makes it a bit even more less me of an interest to even want to play it. But I wanted to play it just for the sake of discussing it with you. But I will check it out sometime this week for sure, and then maybe get into it a little bit more.
I'm never gonna play that again. It just, I don't even want to talk about it because it was so promising, and I'm so convinced that this is the case, where it was because they weren't allowed to adjust too much of the property because they're adapting. They're essentially doing marketing for the TV show, where it's just like, okay, this is, your favorite characters are coming in, like Daenerys or Tyrion or Jon Snow and Cersei, and like having those guys and there being main staple marks, or Marjorie, and then they weren't allowed to do what they wanted because they're just like, oh, we gotta really focus on, like, I understand, like, it's a show where nothing will really get solved, and it's just violence leading to violence leading to violence. But still, like, you can have a full story and character arc in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I'm worried now about Walking Dead and Michonne, since they're going to be working much more closely with AMC, and if HBO isn't that flexible in terms of adapting Game of Thrones, I will assure you that that AMC will probably not be that forgiving in terms of adapting or letting Telltale have creative freedom, especially since Michonne's one of their most popular characters. They have a Walking Dead secondary spin-off game series, which apparently has not gotten great reviews. So I feel like it'll be like, damned what Telltale wants. We just want this to advertise our brand first, and then whatever they want to do second.
Yeah, I feel like they gotta stray away a little bit from some of the licensed properties, so that they have the ability to be more flexible. Because a lot of the Telltale's games are mainly just mainly all of them. I'm trying to remember if I maybe missed one, but all of them are
Fables,
are licensed properties that, credit to them, 80-90% of them they knock it out of the park. But I'm sure they could have probably done a lot more if it wasn't a licensed property, and be more flexible. Maybe having them do their own kind of IP would definitely be a hell of a lot more interesting to see what they can really do when they're not restricted or shackled between the appeasing the property, the owners that they're making the game off of. Especially with Game of Thrones, it feels completely shackled. I feel like there's a lot more believe. It feels like a lot more that they could do with that game, but they're not doing. It feels more like a cash grab than anything else, really.
Yeah.
For the show and for the series itself, Game of Thrones, it doesn't feel like it's anything worthwhile that you're going to be blown away by. It's just, there's so much they could have done, and even throughout the whole season, from when I played, I just was not really interested at all. I mean, there's some characters there that are definitely interesting in their own right, that I'm curious to see where they go, but the overall story arc is just not doing it for me. It's so completely shackled me. It's just always referencing and shoving in characters from the show and making them be a part of the storyline. I know that some of these characters are important to the series itself, but they don't necessarily have to be in here all the time. Like the Game of Thrones game that came out, that was a different game than this, did a hell of a lot better of a job of conveying a separate story arc in the Game of Thrones universe that didn't necessarily have to rely on characters from the books or even the TV show, for that matter, that are the main characters. That they did that colorfully well than what they've done in this Telltale game. That's why I never been. That's just why I'm not as enthusiastic to play this game, to be honest with you. But I would do it just so I can talk about it with you. But it's just it's just tough. I've only been really playing it for the podcast's sake, honestly.
Yeah, it does. It ends with a whimper, and it is. Okay. I mean, it's so debilitating because it's like you guys had such a huge, enormously cool opportunity, and it was just squandered. And Telltale I don't understand because like they work with so many different properties. They did Sam and Max. They did Back to the Future. They've done Walking Dead, Fables, Borderlands, and all of those were great adaptations of the properties with the blessings of the people who held the licenses. Like I know it's one of the earlier attempts. Well, yeah, not earlier in terms of the company, but like with Back to the Future, that was done with Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis giving their blessing, and that is a great addition to the Back to the Future canon. And it's like that, and then like Walking Dead, they were able to do incredible justice. Fables, like I guess because Fables isn't that well known, so like they were able to get away with maybe some creative licensing.
A vertical property. So
it's a Vertigo property, and it just now seems like they're being interested. Companies are reaching out to them just to advertise their show, rather than like, oh, here's a property that we want you to make into an interesting game. And it just, God, I mean, with this, it was so promising for Game of Thrones fans, and it just ended so. I mean, just keep your expectations in check. I mean, it is, and let's hope for your sake the music doesn't cut out in the middle of the fight.
Oh yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen to me. I mean, honestly, it was more the game's content itself that I had a problem with, and anything technical. So I really haven't had much issues with the game on the PS4, unfortunately. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll definitely check it out just to kind of wrap things up, because I paid for the season pass as it is, so I might as well get the money's worth.
Last time I got a season pass from Telltale, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be tough, especially with what they're gonna be coming out with. Honestly, I probably won't check out that Walking Dead Michonne standalone game because I never thought the character was that interesting enough to have her own game, and also just if they're gonna be taking the same route as doing an adaptation of the show with the show character or anything like that, with what they've shown with the Walking Dead, I'm not really up for being disappointed again on possibly what they're going to be doing with this other adaptation based on the show's character. We'll see how it turns out, but I will not be purchasing that at launch or anything like that. I'll just kind of wait and see.
I mean, because like
if it's really good and really really good, then I would maybe check it out. But anything like this where it's just kind of lukewarm, and I'm not really up for it. Yeah, it's just disappointing because we don't mean to be kind of sticks in the mud, because we know.
Oh, of course not.
Because we have our own expectations of Telltale, because they can really put out some really good stuff. It's just disappointing to see when they put out something that is not what they are known for, what put them on the map.
If we were the teachers of this class, and Telltale Games would be, that student that's like always the B plus A student who's just like he's a good kid, like he's going to go places. Then he starts playing with that David Cage kid, where he's just like listen, he's a bad influence on you. Don't listen to him. Don't just don't like listen to those property holders. Like, believe in yourself. Don't feel like you need to make everyone love you for work that will make them look better. Just be who you are. And with this, Tales from the Borderlands was incredible. I think it is very very strong contender. It's probably not going to be my game of the year, but it's definitely one of the top 5 games I've played this year.
Surprise hit, you mean?
Yeah,
maybe?
Very surprised hit. I had no expectations whatsoever with the game, and I know they're great writers. I love how they utilize their engine and their game mechanics for their storytelling, and I honestly wish them all the best, because they are I love point and click games, and these are the guys who brought back the point and click genre.
Oh yeah.
And I this was a big misstep, and I'm sorry, guys. It just like try better again next time, and maybe don't be so worried about upsetting HBO.
Oh yeah, I highly agree. I mean, I still won't forget. Just other memories that we've had with the previous works. The first season of Walking Dead was spectacular, and the first season of Wolf Among Us was just amazing in its own right as well. It's just really, this definitely was just a little slight misstep. Doesn't ruin completely my confidence in Telltale for putting out a good game, but it's just a little bit of that trust was lost. You'll have that little moment in the back of your head when you think about it. It is a perfect analogy. I think they may have been hanging out with David Cage for a while, which is one of the other guys in the gaming industry that is just I don't see what people find interesting about his games. I honestly I've seen some footage. I've seen a good amount of Beyond Two Souls, and I don't see the appeal. Some of that writing, that writing is no good. I don't see the appeal, and even with their new recently announced game, I don't see what anybody should be hyped for that, because from the track record that Quantum Dream has had, they have some good ideas. They have the technology for sure to put out some interesting looking games, but the actual story itself and writing doesn't live up to the anticipation or
potential
quality that they have with what their technology, what they're doing. It doesn't live up to the same standard as what their writing is.
I will go a step farther and say that I'm always interested in the general premise of Quantic Dream's stories. Like Indigo Prophecy was like, okay, a murder investigation where like a cult's involved. I'm interested in that. Or the serial in Heavy Rain, a serial killer with a father who lost his son and is overprotective of his other son, and all these stories converging together. That's interesting. It's just that the writing sucks, and it's terrible. And the guy is the Stephen King of video game writers. In one respect only, don't get too big of a head, David Cage, in that he doesn't know how to write endings. It's not like he writes bad endings. He just like makes things stop happening, and he doesn't understand like, okay, this needs to have an arc, have a beginning, middle, and end, and have a natural ending, and not just like, okay, now things just stop happening here.
Yeah, I mean that's my biggest that's my biggest gripe with him, and just my kind of overall wonder why some outlets give him more credit than what the games he put out.
Because he's no terror.
Then he let. Yeah, honestly, it just like you said. I mean, it's just same sentiments. There's some really good ideas. It's just that the writing itself doesn't live up to those ideas. And I just feel like that's going to be the same for that other new game that they've announced, having to do with AIs. It kind of has that Ex Machina kind of feel for it, but it ain't gonna be no Ex Machina.
Ain't gonna be no damn Ex Machina in here.
No Oscar Isaac in that.
I'd be very surprised if Oscar Isaac's like, oh yeah, I'm returning for the same role. It's a prequel to Ex Machina. Yeah. So Quantic Dreams, you guys need to work on your writing, but Telltale, this is kind of the really big misstep. They haven't really had that problem for any of their other properties, because Walking Dead, Tales from the Borderlands, The Wolf Among Us have all been very, very good, from very, very good to great. And I'm not with Game of Thrones and the Minecraft story mode not being essentially very well received. I wonder if this is the start of their decline, or if they'll be able to bounce back from this. And this is just a misstep. I hope that's the case.
Maybe this is just the fuel for the fire that they're going to be working. We're going to be working on something big. You're just collecting some funds from HBO and Notch or Microsoft to fuel a bigger project. That's my anticipation and optimism on it. But there's not been a lot more bad Telltale games than good Telltale games. So I'll hold my judgment till that starts to occur. There's been a lot more better Telltale games than there have been, bad or mediocre ones. So we'll have to hold our breath on that statement on the possible decline of Telltale. But certainly some of the decisions they make have been a little bit of a detriment to our overall.
They still have a lot of goodwill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they have a goodwill. They ain't no EA or anything like that.
Oh God, no. They're no Konami.
No, but there's definitely definitely a lot of the charm and like a lot of the charm and love we had for it is gone down a little bit. It's still there, but it's like it's like it's just like anything else. Other developers, it's just like personally, if I would put them up on a list of like top developers, they'd be up there, but not in the top 5. Especially some of these last few games they put out. Like I'd say nowadays, right now, probably the best one out there, really, personally for me, is like CD Projekt Red is probably one of the best developers out there right now.
I think I'd agree with you there. And it, Telltale, I feel like they don't know how to handle success, and it's almost even better when they're hungrier for trying new things, because with Walking Dead, the first season is fantastic. There's no question about that. I love that first season. I liked 400 Days, and then season 2 felt like, okay, they kind of didn't know what they were trying to go for. And then with Game of Thrones, that one feels like it really should have been up their alley, because it's about morally gray choices, and kind of similar to the Wolf Among Us, where it's structured where you're not only making decisions for yourself, but you're also making decisions for a community. And with several different protagonists, that's a very interesting idea. Like, okay, not doing something here will affect someone else there. But that never really panned out. It instead of feeling like 3 narratives that wove together, it felt like 3 separate stories that just happened to be going at the same time. And they did a much better job with it in Tales from the Borderlands with Fiona and Reese. They're the 2 main characters and their choices. And it feels like they, I don't know, either didn't have enough creative freedom to do what they wanted, or they didn't have enough time, or I kind of hope this is the case. They're just taking funds from HBO and just giving like, we put our 5 best guys onto this while we make our own new IP, or hopefully working on that Firefly game I've really wanted them to be working on. But
that 24 game I pitched.
Oh God, yeah, the 20. Okay, never mind. The 24 game needs to come first, because that would actually make a great TV show, especially since Jack Bauer, he's going to win every single gameplay fight because he's Jack Bauer. Come on, he never loses a gunfight. So like having him just make tough choices would be a far more interesting idea.
Yeah, I just think a lot of the twists and turns that happen on the show can definitely be translated well to what Telltale can pull off too, with some of their kind of own less obvious decision making you make that they present, which is kind of will work well with the show, with a lot of the twists and turns that they always end up doing, just to make it a little bit more interesting, and it just could definitely be a change of pace for them, especially it being more of an action paced show, and also can it be more political in the sense of a lot of the negotiations going on between a lot of politics going on in that show too, especially with
ideologies as well.
Yeah, ideologies, and also just
because Jack's a main proponent of torture. He's like, listen, I'm going to torture it because it gets damn answers. I don't give a damn about like, oh, it's not right. It's like, listen, there's a bomb that's about to go off, and Chloe's about to die at the hands of a terrorist. I can't deal with this right now. Like, I can either save the day or deal with morality. I can't do both.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, depending on what season they'll get into, it's going to depend on how much the torture will be used, because it definitely did evolve a little bit from that, and especially with the last kind of season that was like a miniseries, they didn't really use torture that much anymore, because it almost acknowledged it seemed like a more an outdated trope on the show, and also kind of in real life too. How it's kind of unreliable sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I will check it out maybe tonight after we end this podcast, just kind of to wrap it up. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, Asher is probably my only more liked character on the show, on that episode, on that game.
Yeah,
that's why I kind of chose him on some favorable routes.
Yeah,
as you'll see later on, which the last episode presented. So yeah. I stuck with him. I stuck with him because I liked him. He was the more interesting one of the most.
Can we say some spoilers here for
the last episode? Save them up.
Yeah, like for the ending of the 5th episode and the beginning of the 6th.
Okay.
Yeah, so you choose between one of the two brothers,
right?
Who lives and who dies at the end of episode 5, and it's either Asher or I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Roberts.
No, honestly, I don't recall either because it's been a while since I played it, and some of the names for these characters are hard to remember. Much like the books of the show when you read it, but I actually remember more of the books as he'll always
like Christopher.
Yeah, something like that.
That's how Martin writes his characters. It's like take a regular name, just like replace one letter, and that's the Game of Thrones world name.
Yeah, I mean it's the other brother. If anyone who's played it, it's the other brother that was it's kind of been handicapped throughout the the whole season, and is scarred up through some of the battles that he's endured throughout the season. Yeah, it was him or Asher. I chose Asher because I thought that it served. It's actually I picked him most because I thought it would serve better the plot than anything else. But it also
because Asher won over the pit fighters.
Right. It's really one of those. It's one of those interesting choices that I've had to make because it actually made it more on the emphasis that it would serve the story better than actually just choosing one of the more obvious, maybe more favorable route maybe some folks would have picked. But it also had to do with me preferring the character, but it also was convenient enough that I felt that it would serve the story a lot. It would have more impact if he actually had survived. So that's just me from a viewer of the game story perspective. I felt that it would be more serving for the story. But that was just me. I'll definitely check it out, see what happens, and let you guys know. We'll probably do we can do a spoiler talk. Maybe do a spoiler talk review on it on the next episode, or maybe just on a separate kind of thing. Just want to do that and kind of wrap the final pages up on that and see where we go from there. But yeah, other than that, is there anything that you wanted to discuss tonight? I know we got into a good amount of things that we talked about a little bit, but primarily I really want to talk to you about Jessica Jones primarily. But it was nice that you got that discussion in there, which was a good long discussion that took up a good amount of the show. So I'm not sure if you had anything that you wanted to add before we ended up departing for tonight.
Nope, I'm ready to bounce if you are. I spoke my piece. I haven't really done anything game playing wise besides continue Fallout 4 and really enjoying that.
Oh yeah, I definitely got farther too in some of the quests. I've been mainly doing side quests as everyone's kind of always does in Bethesda games. I delved into a little bit more into the main mission quest. I actually got farther. There's some segments there where you go further south into the wasteland, where it's kind of a bit more of a radiated area. You really have to be prepared if you're going to go down further to the south of the map because it's heavily radiated and a lot of death crawlers hanging around over there. So,
our favorite.
Definitely gotta collect your Rad-X to be more resistant to radiation, or maybe get some power armor. Which power armor is so easy to get, it's so easy to come by in that game. It doesn't have that same rewarding mystique anymore, because I remember playing Fallout 3 in New Vegas. It's like, oh shit, the Brotherhood of Steel are here. These guys are badass. It's like I want their armor. It's like I could never get it in those games, and it just in the beginning of the game, the first hour or so, you already get your power armor. You start shooting up death claws already with ease.
That's the first mission, I think.
It was like the first probably mission you do when you get out into the wasteland.
Mm-hmm.
Depending if you follow, I guess the main stuff, and don't really deviate from the main quest, but it technically is the first thing you do in the main quest. Primarily is you meet up with the Minutemen held up in I think in a library or a clock tower somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and you get into that power armor and start blasting away at some Raider scum, as they are properly described, and Deathclaw comes out of nowhere too.
It's kind of overpowered in the beginning, and you're trying to figure out, like, okay, how to manage this, and it's a little bit easier to kind of get power armor now, but there's something just so cathartic about just gunning down Deathclaws, whereas in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, where it was like, oh my god, these guys are the bane of my existence.
Oh yeah, I felt like there was a lot more of them too, scattered around in three in New Vegas. It felt to the point where I was like, you're just afraid. You were watching your every corner to make sure no one snuck up behind you. They're definitely one of the most frighteningly designed enemies in the game, and also the most devastating ones too if you ever get entangled with them. I mean, I felt the same way too with them super mutants, but I feel like you feel like you're on equal playing field with them, so I don't feel like they're as overpowered as they were before in the previous games. I hate the ones that the suicide bomber ones, and the ones that shoot the fat mans at you. It was the worst.
No, I absolutely hate those, because it's like, how are you supposed to prepare for that? Especially when they're just like not afraid to fire them off when they're so close to you, so like they'll kill you and themselves. Like, do you have no idea of self-preservation?
Yeah, they're insane, and you're never really fully prepared with them unless you always save like I do every 5 minutes, and you won't lose that much progress if you end up running into one and then blasting your whole body off and into pieces all over the place. But you're never really truly prepared for them. But all in all, I've been enjoying my playtime as well, just doing some side quests myself, and kind of figuring out my way around the wasteland, and just doing some main quests. Nothing too crazy so far, just kind of me wandering around and trying to kind of discover all the locations and just kind of get to them later, so that I'm easily able to fast travel over there and just start looking into different abandoned buildings. So I've been enjoying that. I actually got wrapped up doing this the side quest where you play like the Silver Shroud character. That's kind of a character that was like played on the radio, and you kind of going around the wasteland killing these bandits that are, and then kind of spreading the word that this fictional character is like on the loose serving justice, and you're leaving calling cards on them too. And I like how that all started. You go in this abandoned comics building to get the costume and everything, and you're coordinating with this other guy that does the kind of like that's on the radio, and also plays these telecasts, like these these audio reenactments, audio shows that they do on one of the radios on the wastelands that you listen to. And all of them, like, there's some missions that actually are really cool how they do it. They actually coordinate to what you're doing in the game, and also with the radio, kind of when you're approaching some of the main quests for that story arc. And as you're serving out some justice as this Silver Shroud character, which is pretty cool. And you get the costume too, which is also a nice little perk that has some good stats on them to keep you protected, especially for a suit and a hat. That's all it does a lot for you to protect you out in the wasteland, rather than just going out there in underwear and having like this chest plate that does some good amount of protection on you. But I hate that you can't really choose between one or the other. You can't really put a chest armor piece over your suit, because it was just going to replace the entire suit, and then it's just in your underwear the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get other clothes to mix and match with your arm armband armor or chest piece. I don't know how you do it. It's got a little weird system going on there.
Well, it's I still haven't gotten too much further into it, but I do understand. Yeah, it is kind of weird in terms of the dressing mechanics, where you can't just wear like a regular suit and then like slap on some a shoulder pad or something onto it, where it just like actually replaces the entire outfit. But I guess that was for balancing issues or what have you.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, primarily a lot of the stats on your protective wear don't necessarily matter too much. I feel it's I guess more as you level up, it kind of evens out a little bit. Especially when you get more health, it definitely helps out a little bit more. Other than that, I've just been playing that. But I just wanted to go ahead and just bring that up real quick. But if you're all set to go, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Don't want to keep you up too late. I know we recorded like an hour earlier than we normally do, which is good because it's gonna work out for you mainly. Because we don't need CH to be up at late at night doing this. He's got things to do.
It is. I enjoy this. I enjoy this podcast very, very much, and but I would appreciate probably heading off to bed soon.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up, folks. I just wanted to let you guys know real quick. We do have a new feature on the website. We can now accept voicemails. I mean, simply go to the bloodydhumpspodcast.com, and then as you'll see on any page on the website, on the far right, you'll see that little notification bar that says "Send us a voicemail." You simply click on it. Make sure you got your either your own professionally set up mic like I got here, this blue microphone, snowball microphone. And you record your message to us, 90 seconds long. Not 90 minutes. That's too long of a message. 90-second long voicemail. It could be anything you guys want. Primarily, we want to go ahead and keep this feature on the side. We want to go ahead and actually allow you guys to send us any questions on the podcast. We want to kind of mix it up and keep you guys in the fold with us and be more more listener friendly and active. Just feel free if you guys have any gaming related questions or any questions in general. Leave them on the website, or you can just tweet the questions at us on Twitter. Anything like that, feel free to do so. I mean, the options are available. You can also email us on bloodydhumpspodcast@gmail.com. So,
right,
there's a lot of options for you guys to get a hold of us. Primarily, we would like to have this be more of a prominent feature. That way, if this is used very often, the voicemail feature, we want to play the voicemails on the podcast. So. You should be wary if you're going to be submitting these online to us. We're going to be playing them on the podcast, and have your voice be heard on the podcast with your question. Go ahead and answer it, and that'll be simple as that. We want to go ahead and do that, and hopefully, if it's become something you guys want to primarily use for the most time, then we'll definitely invest into a plan with the SpeakPipe website plugin that allows us to have this feature available on the website, and it'll definitely expand upon a lot more storage for us to have more voicemails accepted in. So right now we're just going with the free plan right now to see how it works, and hopefully if it's more of a demand, then we'll definitely upgrade that plan to get more voicemails in to play on the podcast.
Yeah, we always love to have your input, ladies and gentlemen, and so now with the new voice messaging system on the website, please utilize it so we can hear your lovely voices and questions. Also, absolutely. You can reach us on Twitter with Splinter47 and ch_Gorog.
Yep.
Check us out on the Bloody Thumbs podcast website, or iTunes, or all the other various internet things that I can't remember at the moment.
No, we gotta get them uncovered there. But YouTube too as well. You can always search. You can always search for us on YouTube. Bloody Thumbs Podcast, and you should be able to find the latest episodes we post, because as they go on YouTube as well. So as long as you guys watch it on YouTube, we'll keep posting them on there and iTunes primarily. And since it's on iTunes, there's definitely other alternatives. If you guys don't like using iTunes, there's definitely other alternatives in order to get the podcast available to you. Since it's through iTunes, you can use the that RSS feed feature, and on any kind of Android device or any other non-iTunes Apple product, you can always get that RSS code on the front page of the website, and that way you can be able to be in sync with any posts that we put up on the website, and listen to the podcast that way without necessarily having iTunes. But it's definitely a more wide, very and accessible use. So we figured we put it up on iTunes. It's kind of like the YouTube for videos.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much why it's up there. And we also have a donate button as well for PayPal. If you guys want to donate, anything will go into the podcast. Anything you want to donate, feel free to, and we'll put it right back into the podcast to make sure we make it as a pleasant listening experience and fan interaction experience as possible. So any cent helps. And then if you want to get a free audiobook, I saw that the Harry Potter series is available on Audible.com. So if you want to get one of those Harry Potter books, you can get a free trial on us.
Mm-hmm.
audibletrial.com/Bloody Thumbs. Free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. You can cancel before the 38 days are up. You can cancel the day you subscribe and download the book, and you can still keep it. And it'll still help us out.
Absolutely. And even better still, you subscribe, you get a free audiobook, and every month that goes by, you earn yourself a free audiobook credit. So you don't even have to do anything. You don't need to pay anything. You don't need a subscription service. You just go on to audible.com. You put in your information, and with the Bloody Thumbs promo code, you plug it in. You get free books. Everyone wins.
Everyone wins, and I will be trying to figure out and work through the process of also, you guys also being able to get some little discount as well through us for the Loot Crate. Loot Crate is a very cool, popular service where you get like a monthly box in the mail with a bunch of themed, nerd related things. There's when I was subscribed to it a while back, I got some really interesting, cool things. There's always different themes like villains, heroes, any kind of thing that you're interested in, which is in the realm of gaming in general, any kind of pop culture, you're gonna get some really cool stuff. I mean, that's where I got this Japanese themed, inspired like Power Rangers shirt, which is pretty cool. That I got a while back, and they also had some items to give away that had to do with Game of Thrones. I got these Game of Thrones magnets for the refrigerator, which is pretty cool.
Oh, very.
And I got the House of Stark logo on a flash drive. That's one of the That's what came in one of the Loot Crates a while ago.
It did. I hope on the other side it says like King of the North S drive
with 8 gigs, 8 gigs of war assets, something like that.
Yeah, just have one of the folders just say knows nothing. Open it up. File Jon Snow.
Or the head of Robb Stark. No.
Oh, too soon, man. Too soon.
No, but definitely keep an eye out, guys. We want to keep things going big, and want to have you guys be a part of the podcast as much as possible, which is why I wanted to implement that voicemail feature. So we want to think and get bigger as 2016 rolls around. Since we've been doing this podcast for so long.
Yes,
it's probably older than the recent kids that have been born in the last couple of years. This podcast is older than them. Can you believe that?
I cannot.
And but we want to keep this going, folks. We also want to keep more of a consistent recording schedule. So expect us to possibly be doing, more than likely, since we talked about it, we're going to be doing the podcast, recording and doing it live. Primarily every Tuesday around 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern. So for those on the East Coast, we want to be doing that on a Tuesday. We want to be doing that primarily. So keep it locked. We'll be back, if everything goes well, by next Tuesday with a new podcast, and we'll go from there. Check out my Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone DLC review on the Bloody Thumbs podcast .com. So if you guys are still skeptical, which I don't know how you would be with the Witcher
it's
3
CD Projekt
DLC.
Red. Come on, people.
Absolutely, it's CD Projekt Red. Was made one of the best games, I believe, one of the best games of this year. Witcher 3, and they've went above and beyond with satisfying its customers and not really charging any kind of DLC, giving out 16 pieces of free DLC. What? This is unheard of. What is this sorcery?
This is madness.
What is the sorcery that they've unveiled
What is
to
Sparta?
us? But honestly, it's a short little review. But I've summarized my thoughts on the DLC. It is a fantastic buy, less than $10.
Yeah.
Even less, even like $1 less if you're a PlayStation Plus member that I got a slight discount on. Fantastic DLC. Well worth the price.
You equate it to Lair the Shadow Broker in terms of how good it is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that DLC is as good as the Shadow Broker DLC from Mass Effect 2, and we all know how much we love that. They had mostly the DLC for Mass Effect 2. We loved almost all of it. That series was just that game was probably the best sequel I've ever played, and it had a fantastic DLC. So, Witcher 3 is no exception as well. Fantastic DLC for such a low price with so much content available. Fantastic storyline all the way. Does a lot of different things than it did in the original game, which is just a breath of fresh air. And they didn't really have to do this, but it was fantastic nonetheless. So that's about it, guys. I want to go ahead and thank you so much for listening, and thank you, CH, for coming on today and for us getting together and to do this fantastic episode. 171 episodes for the podcast.
Going strong.
Keep it locked, folks. We're planning to do our end of year podcast discussion.
Yes.
If everything goes well, hopefully with some of the members of the BGB. Check out their podcast, Get Coins or Die Trying, on the BGB.com. Check that out.
I still laugh at the name of that.
Very good, and funny, informative podcast. So we hope to have them on board with us in this collaboration, as we did with them many moons ago with the GTA 5 review.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite reviews.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones. Hope to have that continue on this very long-lasting partnership and cooperation to kind of get together for these special events. So keep it on the down low. We'll see what happens. Keep it locked, indeed. And we'll let you guys know what happens with that. But nonetheless, I will stop blabbering and let CH get some sleep.
Oh, no worries. Thank you very much. It was very informative, and thank you very much for listening, ladies and germs. We will see you later, and we love you dearly. Have a good night.
Yeah, we'll see you on the next one, next Tuesday, and we'll keep you guys informed if everything goes well, and we'll go ahead and continue on this regimen. So thank you so much for listening, and you have a good night, and I will be posting this podcast very soon, and also take a snippet out here and post our Jessica Jones review as well on the website.
That sounds absolutely fantastic.
So thank you so much, everybody. Take it easy. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much turkey, although it's turkey, so I will be devouring it. Hand over fist. And the fist, I mean that big turkey leg in my mouth.
Oh, turkey! The tryptophan is worth it. Like waking up 8 hours later, realizing that everyone has just been passed out from food comas. It's just a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, that's my favorite time. Is that and Christmas? I look very, very much for it. From our families to yours, CH and listeners. I hope you guys have a fantastic Thanksgiving, and we look forward to seeing you next week on episode 172 of Bloody Thumbs Podcast. Take it easy, folks. I am Splitter47 signing off.
I am CH Gorod, and see you later.